I think the first is always be open to learning. You cannot be a leader by feeling that, there's not opportunity for growth for you. And you need to be open to learn from everyone. You need to learn not just from the leaders within your own organization and company, but you need to be able to learn and want to learn from the people that report into you, regardless of what their role is. If it's a 20-year veteran salesperson, if it's a new salesperson, if it's somebody in a support role, be open and look for those learning opportunities.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and beyond performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Jeff Hill. Jeff is a veteran media and sales executive who has spent more than 3 decades helping brands connect with audiences through innovative marketing, advertising, and content strategies. As Vice President of Sales at Cumulus Media Chicago, he leads revenue and growth initiatives across iconic stations including Q101, WLS-FM, and WLS-AM, integrating broadcast, digital, and live event platforms to deliver meaningful business results. Known for his expertise in sales leadership, digital strategy, negotiation, and integrated marketing, Jeff has built and led high-performing teams throughout his career. His passion for creative problem-solving and audience engagement continues to help organizations thrive in an ever-evolving media landscape. Jeff, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Jessy. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Fantastic. Jeff, I'm curious, who is someone from your early life or even an early experience that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
There's so many people over my life and career that have impacted me. I certainly would start with my parents, who have always, taught me great work ethic, taught me compassion, taught me empathy, that willingness to sit down and talk and have conversations about things. Many people throughout my career, different bosses that have I've tried to learn from, both in the leadership as well as sales side of it. I will say sometimes I don't just learn from the best leaders. I've also learned a lot from those that maybe weren't the best leaders, and learning some aspects of things of how not to approach things and how to take a different stance. So I would say my career, my life have been impacted by so many people over the years, it'd be impossible to list.
Jeff, any particular experience that stands out? Any particular person that stands out?
Yes, it was very early on in my management career. And, I was fortunate to get an opportunity very early on in sales. I started managing about 4 years into my sales career, and had a great, a woman who was still to this day a good friend and a good confidant. And I would say my management style was probably a little bit tougher than it needed to be, and different than who I was as a seller, and in a manager where I didn't have as many direct reports. And she took me aside. She said, "What's happened? Where is the Jeff that we know?" Because I was coming at people a little bit harder, and it really kind of struck me as to, that empathy side of management and leadership. As a young individual, as a young manager at 25, just I didn't bring that with me into the management role. So it was very early on, and it's something that has always stuck with me. That you can certainly have expectations of your salespeople, and you can hold them to those expectations. But a phrase I used just a few years ago is that it's okay to lead with, have empathy with expectation is really how leadership, I think, needs to be done, especially in today's world and environment.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. So that kind of gets us to the next question, which is, what does true leadership mean to you? I know it means different things to different people, but what's your experience? What's your perspective?
Well, I think there's a few things that in leadership you have to carry through, regardless of your position, whether you're in a leadership position or a leader on a team or what have you. I think the first is always be open to learning. You cannot be a leader by feeling that there's not opportunity for growth for you, and you need to be open to learn from everyone. You need to learn not just from the leaders within your own organization and company, but you need to be able to learn and want to learn from the people that report into you, regardless of what their role is. If it's a 20-year veteran salesperson, if it's a new salesperson, if it's somebody in a support role, be open and look for those learning opportunities. And I think that is critical in a leadership role. I think being open and honest with your team, and being fair. We try not and play favorites. There may be individuals that you'd love to have a beer with on the weekend or whatever it is, but you have to treat everybody with that same level of performance expectations across the board. And I just think, all of those aspects of things, come across in your leadership role. And like I said, it's not critical as to what your position or what your title is. Being a leader can be done in so many different ways, in so many different fashions. And it should be coming to you. You shouldn't have to be going out looking for it.
Yeah. And Jeff, something that you said, I just wanted to dig into it a little bit more, which is you talked about how it's so important to make sure that you are empathetic and thinking about everybody on the team. Mm-hmm. What does it take as a leader to do that?
Humility. For me, it's changed over the years. The industry, radio is a legacy industry, right, in the media space, and it has our position has changed a lot over the years, and I think we need to be more understanding of the challenges that our salespeople face, because they're incredibly different today than what they were 6-7 years ago, and light years different than they were when I started in the industry. So we have to be aware of the challenges that our people are facing. I'm a bit of an old school kind of a guy, right? Not just because I'm old, but because, I'm a 5-day a week in the office kind of a guy. And, when our city of Chicago was shut down on, roughly March 13th, and everybody was working from home, within about 2 months, I was back in the office 5 days. And initially, my expectations were that's what it should be for everybody. And what I've come to learn and understand is, that environment isn't most effective for everybody. And there are those that need it and it's helpful for them, and those that maybe it's more of a hindrance for them. And so relooking at the job that we have to do with the with the environment that we're currently in today, with the challenges that our industry faces, but also with the opportunities that that brings us, I think is how we balance that empathy and expectation side of it. The expectation really has not changed in our industry, right? How do we develop um, successful programs for our advertisers to generate business for them and in turn revenue for us? That aspect has never changed. Involving the creative process to do that has never really changed. It's one of the beauties of this industry that I've enjoyed for nearly 40 years is being creative in the process. What has changed is, the position of radio advertising, and we've addressed that through different digital solutions and other marketing ideas. But at the end of the day, the task has not changed, but the challenge of how we go to market certainly has. And we just need to understand that and know that and help our team, uh, overcome those obstacles along the way.
So keeping in touch with the changing times and really translating that, not just into a vision, but also communicating and understanding the challenges that people are facing as a result of that. That just sounds like, the journey that you've been on in the last few years, particularly. And this kind of leads to my next question, which is, can you share a time when you realized that your way of living, no longer met the demands of your work in life, right? And growth was needed?
Um, there's been so many of those times over the years, from relocating, when my wife and I were just married, to coming back to Chicago and starting a family. I've always really tried to maintain a very strict work-life balance. And it, sometimes meant the hours changed, because what I've always tried to do, even though in our industry, entertainment is always a big part of it. So, whether you're entertaining clients out at a dinner or a sporting event, a concert, what have you, there's a lot of time that goes into that, but I've always tried to maintain that when I walk into that door at my house, that I am dedicated and focused to my family, and try not to and spend it on the phone checking emails or texts. And obviously, there's always going to be time where it's needed, but I've always tried to maintain that, and it's. I would say some of those specific challenges were always around times with senior leadership changes within the company. I tell everybody, if you've been in this business long enough, you've gone through bankruptcy probably more than once. I am now in my third. So those types of challenges and discussions and things like that, I think, put a lot of different types of pressure and expectations that, make you question or really put a strain on that management style that you've had. I have been very fortunate in my career that the leadership that I've had have really allowed me to manage my team. And that's, for the most part, from corporate leadership to local leadership, that they've really trusted me and allowed me to lead in a style and with objectives that fit the times, fit the products, fit the team. And so, I've been very fortunate in that side. But when sometimes that leadership changes, especially at the senior level, sometimes you've got to make some adjustments to that leadership style.
And personally for you, especially when things kind of, at turning points, what were some of the other fundamental changes that you had to make?
I think it is just that, reanalyzing what my style has been and what needs to get done now in a different workspace environment. I will tell you, I can recall, 30 years ago when digital was just starting to, you know, make space in the radio world, and probably a little bit more than 30 years ago. And, the mentality was, well, if it doesn't make you money, why do you even do it? And needless to say, we're far from that mindset today. So the integration of that, learning an entirely new um, advertising and marketing space while still maintaining and growing the current space that I had been in probably for 20 years. As we were making that adjustment, that's probably one of the more challenging aspects. You know, in radio, regardless for the most part of the product that you sell, you have a lot of different aspects to sell. Sometimes it may be sports franchises, sometimes it might be events, different talent you work with, things along those lines. But bringing in the digital space is an entirely separate industry, obviously, that you're folding into what you do. And how do you maintain that balance? How do you get those that are kind of non-believers in digital marketing? And there's still a few out there in the radio world. How do you get them to buy in and believe in this, as I said, while still maintaining and hopefully growing your core business of the radio space?
Yeah. And so, Jeff, from a leadership perspective, right? What did you have to outgrow or let go as you met all of these challenges and evolved your leadership style?
Yeah, I think part of it is just that not being afraid to learn, not being afraid to not understand products. When you've been in the business as long as I have been, and listen, I will still go on calls, especially in the digital space, where I'm kind of just sitting back listening because the digital tech heads are way above my caliber, but not being afraid to jump into those calls and learn from them and take from them. And I think that those are the fears that we have as leaders, and especially long term, of walking into a space where you're not the expert, where I can't sit there and pull from my, years and years of experience and lead that discussion as the expert in the room. And I think that, again, getting into, leadership styles and learning and growing and things like that, that's okay. That's something that you have to be comfortable with, not being the smartest guy in the room mentality. And that's not always an easy thing to do. When you really can know and hold that role in certain conversations, and then you're bringing in this new space where I've got half of my team that could run circles around me in conversations about digital marketing and digital advertising.
Got it. Continuously growing, it requires a lot of commitment, right? So thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself for your own growth?
Time. It's not quantifiable from a dollar standpoint, but I guess we could probably equate that. But I think it really is just time and looking for those spaces to those spaces to learn, whether it is grabbing articles in LinkedIn, looking at industry trades, talking with experts in the field of what I'm trying to adapt to and learn into. I think that it's really just making sure that you're finding the time to be able to do that you're dedicating the time to be able to do that it is a regular part of your routine, of just making sure that, okay, am I dedicating time daily, really, to learning more about what we can do what um, what we do within different spaces of today's marketing field.
And curious, Jeff, what does that look like? You said, you said that you dedicate time on a daily basis. Curious, what does that look like?
I start my day, my mornings every day with reading. What's in my inbox from, the industry, what's in our inbox from the company and the training that they provide. Really spending that time digging through, the emails and the articles to make sure that I am, really looking at, not just updates on what I've been doing for most of my career, but information on learning about what can I do in the next stages of my career. I think it's also I love taking meetings with new vendors, with new opportunities, because I think even if I may not have the budget to be able to do something, I can learn about something that's available to us in our industry. And so I may be learning about what our competitors using and doing and things like that. So I think you have to look for those opportunities. Sometimes, it's not as easy as just opening your emails and reading what's in your inbox every single morning or at the end of the day. It's actually looking for those things and responding to those things that you think may help educate you. And if it's sitting through a half hour or 1 hour sales pitch just to learn about what the opportunity is. I think, you have to, as a leader within an organization, especially a sales organization, take the time to be able to find and what's going on out there in the industry.
Could you share a story of how, reading every morning or talking to different vendors, how has that really shown up in your leadership style?
Yeah, well, I'm my sales staff would laugh and probably a few roll their eyes, but I'm I'm kind of a let's try everything kind of a guy, right? It's if you're going to give me a trial on something, guess what? We're going to try it. And a few years ago, we tried a prospecting tool that was brand new to me, brand new to our team in incorporating AI with kind of a very high speed phone call approach where, we built a list with this vendor and salespeople sat on their computer and had three, three or four phone calls ringing at the same time. And the first one that picked up, they had to be ready to go. And so I think that they just see that I am willing to try new things to help push our business along. And I'm not, I'm involved in two new concepts right now. One that we're a little further down the road on, and one that we're early on with, and just trying something brand new that, most probably even my competitors would sit there and go, what, really? That's what, you really want to do that? And I'm like, you just don't know which of those opportunities might be the home run. And in most of these opportunities, we've generated a small amount of business, maybe not to keep it going, but I enjoy trying new things. I enjoy showing our team that we are open to new ideas, that we want to try new things, because in our business, I think in sales in general, you can't be routine. You can't, what you did yesterday doesn't work today and sure as heck isn't going to work tomorrow. And you have to be adjusting, you have to be adapting and try to be ahead of that as much as you can.
What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
It's funny. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and I said, every place that I have left it better than before. These days, with the state of the industry, I'm not sure financially that's going to be the case, but I think from a team standpoint, that will be the case. And I think that I hope that my legacy, my reputation is that exactly a lot about what we've talked about, that that I've been a very open and honest manager, that I've been a fair leader, that at times I was probably tough, but I was tough in a fair way. And I set those expectations and I held those expectations, and that I lived up to those expectations myself, that I hold myself accountable um, as much, if not more so, than my salespeople. And I'm willing to do, all the things that I ask them to do. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and do as well. So no job or task is too small. And I hope that is how I am remembered when I someday retire.
As you think about, your legacy, what are the ways that you feel like you still need to grow personally in order to develop, in order to create that, in order to leave that legacy behind the way you imagine it, the way you envision it?
Yeah, I think it is. It's not just about the numbers, right? I mean, I could sit here and say, you know, I want to grow and build our team to the point of where, we've hit record numbers in Chicago or within the company or what have you. And to me, it is more about the people that we have built, and the people that we have grown. And it is, being better about connecting with each individual to help make them the best that they can be. And I think we're always, I'm never satisfied with um, where I'm at in that process. I always feel like there's a better, deeper connection that I can have with people, that there is a better way to help them be better at what they do. And I think that's, where I can still grow and where I can still help this team and just become better individuals as well as, overall as a team.
Yeah. And, given how much change your industry is going through, I'm curious, where do you feel most tested right now? Like, what challenges are stretching you the most in leadership and also in life?
Yeah. I, the radio industry, has certainly gone through, endless changes, even, in my career, right? We're always being challenged by the next technology and things along those lines. We fight every day the radio is dead mentality, in spite of reams of data and information that will tell you the exact opposite. Um, so I think the challenge that I have is, number one, maintaining the motivation and the belief within our team. And how do we continue to keep them? We have amazing digital products, and that's certainly where we are growing and people are learning and selling. But our core revenue is still based on our core product, which is our 3 radio stations here in Chicago. But like anything in life, when you are continued to, from, you know, from clients to maybe in your home life being told that, what are you doing? That industry is, nobody listens to the radio anymore. How do you stay motivated in that? Right. And I think that is probably our biggest challenge, is staying motivated as a staff, and motivated as individuals, that in spite of headwinds coming from everywhere, like I said, from your clients to maybe your family, how do you fight through that and still see the opportunity that's in front of you? And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we face here. Personally, I would say sometimes the same. Keeping that motivation alive, and focused in the right direction. If you've been in this industry long enough, you've gone through probably 2 bankruptcies. I've gone through 3. I'm currently in my third. So while in all of those times, very little has impacted the day-to-day operation of our individual markets and facilities. But there are struggles corporately and battles you fight, and it is about maintaining that focus, maintaining that motivation, blocking that out, when addressing and working with your team to make sure that, you know, I can't expect them to come with the right attitude and motivation if they don't see me with, bringing the right attitude and motivation to the table every single day.
And resilience comes to mind, right? As you
Mm.
share this story, and I'm curious, how do you keep yourself motivated? Where do you feel you need to grow and develop to meet these kinds of challenges?
Oh gosh, a stiff drink at the end of the day, maybe? No. Uh,
Help.
yeah, I will say, I have always been a relatively positive person throughout all aspects of my life, and I think that you know a phrase that I learned years ago: "It's not a problem; it's an opportunity." And I think you really have to look at it like that, and maybe the opportunity, the challenges are obviously still there. The challenges may be greater than they ever have been, but we should look at that as then so are the opportunities. And when I started out in this business, I had one radio station and I had just the market of Chicago to sell, and I had a certain audience and things along those lines, and that's all I could sell. Today, I can sell any radio station in my company, and I can sell a digital program to any person anywhere. So the opportunity is much greater. How do you harness that? How do you focus in on that? How do you, make sure that you are mining in the right opportunities that can bring you the greatest return? Those are the things that we're focusing on, and so I think really it is about that. We're faced with challenges every single day, both personally and professionally. And if you let all of those weigh you down, if you allow that to sit on your shoulders, you'll just never get out of it. And you have to look at the opportunity that lies ahead when you solve to it. And listen, half the time as a manager, my greatest joy still to this day is when a salesperson brings in a tough sale. Those no, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. When you had victory in a challenging situation, that is still my greatest reward in this job.
Yeah, finally, this last question is more of an invitation. You have this time and space to, to offer to our listeners whatever it is that is top of your mind, top of your heart for you. The floor is yours. Take your time. Love to hear your thoughts.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity you've given me today, and hopefully we've been able to keep at least most of the people through to the end of this. Uh, I think leadership comes in so many different ways, so many different shapes, so many different sizes, so many different individuals. Look for those people, surround yourself by those people. As I said, you have to be able to learn from everyone in your organization, those in your department, those out of your department, those with a title bigger than yours, and those without a title, and be open to that. Be open to, as I said, surround yourself by those around those individuals. We know in life that when you know, with your friends group, we talk to our kids, about, don't, don't build a friend group with toxic individuals. And that is maybe truer in the workforce, surrounding yourself by those people that can help lift you up and not be afraid, to, be with people that, regardless of title, that can teach you and help you learn in your leadership roles.
Jeff, I appreciate the wisdom that you've shared here with us today. I've gotten so much out of this conversation. Going through 3 bankruptcies is no joke. And I love the fact that, one of the most important things seems to be focusing on the next opportunity and keeping yourself motivated. I mean, there were just so many nuggets out there.
Thank you.
So wonderful listening to you. I'm sure anybody who's listening will take a lot out of this conversation. Thank you so much for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Jessy.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership Approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.